Hi, this is Fred Barstein with 401k TV. We're here at the University of Minnesota where we just completed a TPSU program led by adjunct lecturer Joe Brummel. And we wanted to ask him a little bit about what he's doing and learning about employee education. Joe is the adjunct lecturer for our Minneapolis and St. Paul zones. He's also a founding lecturer of the Retirement Advisor University and really a leading, an industry leader in the 401k defined contribution as an advisor. So Joe, okay if we ask you a few questions?
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm been leading the TPSU program here this is our 4th year as the adjunct lecturer, but I'm the Director of Retirement Plan Consulting for Wealth Enhancement Group. And we're a firm based out of Minnesota, and we have 13 offices that are expanding across the country,
Sure.
Adding new locations. And my team and I specialize 100% in retirement plans. This is all we do.
Right. And so one of the things you talked about a little bit about is employee education and sort of segmenting the different types of employees that come to these meetings. So why don't you explain a little bit about that?
Well, as we know in the industry, traditional education hasn't really worked. You know, and the problem with that is it goes over participants' heads. We heard that today in our program from some of the plan sponsors where their broker or their advisor comes in and talks all this technical jargon that goes right over the heads of the participants. They're not speaking to them in the language that's meaningful. And so traditional education in that type of approach doesn't really help. It actually can hurt. And so we go about it a very different way. It's a more evolved approach, first of all with the basis of behavioral finance, understanding how people, not just the math, but how people think and how they are wired to behave based on neuroscience. And then further than that, we can break it down into something that's kind of fun. You know, you can break it down into this. When you have a group of participants that walk in the room, there's typically 3 different types. 1, vacationers. 2, prisoners. And 3, there's motivated learners. The vacationers are there because, hey, there's a free donut, some pizza. Hey, I get to take a break from my job. You know, but they're not necessarily engaged. The prisoners are there because, hey, it's a mandatory meeting, if it is a mandatory meeting, and they're just there because they have to be there. They really do not want to be there. They're checked out from the moment they check in. Mm-hmm. And finally, you've got the motivated learners. And those are the people who are coming motivated to learn how to plan for their retirement, make better decisions, and do something about it. Now, I look at our job as an advisor as one where if we're doing education, we should be converting the vacationers and the prisoners into motivated learners.
So that was my next question. So how do you let's start with the prisoners. How do you take the prisoners and make them into motivated learners?
Well, there's a lot to that, and it starts with understanding the group, the demographics, your audience. You know, just like any good speaker is going to understand their audience and tailor the content to that audience to make it meaningful to them. But I look at it this way. You have to make it as personalized as possible because then they'll pay attention. Then it has to be simple, it has to be easy, and you have to make it actionable. And simple and easy are not the same thing because simple and easy, here's an example, losing weight. Really simple, just not easy, okay?
So do you do research on these people before they come into the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a process we take every group through, every client, to understand their group really well.
Right.
Demographics, income levels, education, and what type of content is going to fit their needs. And then, this is the fun part, is we put together a strategic education approach where the messaging will fit their group. And there was a great example of a group we did this with a few months back. And we did a lot of, you know, improvements to their plan. When they hired us as their advisor last year, went through an RFP for the record keeper, investment changes, fee reductions, all of those things, plan design changes. But where it really came together was at the participant level. This is where you make everything really succeed. And with this particular group, as a manufacturing group of about 425 employees, they had a 46% participation rate. These participants were not motivated learners. And we were told by the head of HR, you know, when we roll out this auto enrollment feature and some of these other things, we're going to have a lot of people come to those meetings and just ask for the form to get out. She was right, but we were ready for them. And we did 12 meetings around the clock for 2 days. And we had this strategic messaging that fit this group, most of which make $25,000 to $35,000 a year, most of which are not participating in saving for their retirement, haven't started at all, and don't have a clue where to begin. And what they were missing out on were some really key things, like not just the company match, but how about that retirement savers tax credit? They had never heard of it. And we framed the messaging in things, in ways in which they understood. We used analogies and references and broke it down into digestible pieces. And by the end of that second day, we had workers that were coming back in from the shop floor asking us questions and saying, oh, by the way, you guys are the talk of the shop floor out there. Well, just last month, we had a review with that client. This is a number of months after we've implemented everything. And we're very happy to share with the client the results, the impact that we had. And their participation rate, which was 46%, is now 94.8%. Their average savings rate more than doubled. And the satisfaction is through the roof. The employees are really happy. And I think what we did with the education is where everything culminated. You can certainly do auto features, you can do investment changes, all these things. Those are great things. But if the employees don't understand it and don't appreciate it, they might opt out for one thing, or they, you know, even if they stick in, they may not get it. They might not understand it or appreciate it.
It's the engagement and the behavioral financing model plan that works. Well, that's great. It's a great story. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for watching 401k TV.